Imagine a world just emerging from the greatest war humanity had ever seen. Millions dead, nations shattered, and then a beacon of hope arrives. Or so it seems. This is the untold story of President Woodrow Wilson's groundbreaking yet deeply complex visit to Great Britain in December 1918. A journey that would define not just the peace, but the very future of international relationships. The year is 1918. The armistice has been signed, ending World War I. But the fight for peace has just begun. On December 26, a British ship, the Brighton, sliced through the choppy waters of the English Channel. On board, none other than the President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, the first sitting president ever to set foot on British soil. This wasn't just a courtesy call. Wilson had a grand vision, a secret mission, if you will, to reshape the entire global order through 14 points and the creation of a League of Nations. He knew he needed European buy-in, and he was taking his cause directly to the people. Let's stop for a second and talk about what the armistice was about. On November 11th, 1918, after more than 4 years of horrific fighting and the loss of millions of lives, the guns on the Western Front fell silent. Although fighting continued elsewhere, the armistice between Germany and the Allies was the first step to end World War I. The armistice was signed primarily due to military, economic, and political collapse, although it was thought the Spanish flu pandemic did play a great role causing of that collapse. The flu hit both sides, but it was particularly devastating for the German military. From Dover, Wilson and his wife Edith traveled by train to London, where they were met by fanfare. At the station, the British royal family awaited: King George V, Queen Mary, and Princess Mary. The Wilsons were whisked away in a grand procession to Buckingham Palace, where they would stay as the king's personal guests. The crowds were immense. Imagine streets packed shoulder to shoulder, cheering, waving flags. People were desperate for peace, desperate for hope. And Wilson, the scholar-statesman from across the Atlantic, seemed to embody it. There's even a hidden story here. The sheer number of people overwhelmed London's police force, with one official later remarking, "We had not known such enthusiasm since Mafeking King night." Wilson and the King appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony, an honor rarely extended to a foreign head of state. This wasn't just a welcome, it was an embrace of a perceived savior. While the public adored President Wilson, behind the scenes, the atmosphere was far more tense. Wilson held critical, often difficult meetings at 10 Downing Street with Prime Minister David Lloyd George and Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour. Wilson's idealism clashed with the British leaders, who were more concerned with protecting the British Empire and securing heavy compensations from Germany. One of the biggest sticking points, Wilson's demand for freedom of the seas. While it sounded noble, the British, who relied on their powerful navy for both defense and empire, saw it as a direct threat to their naval supremacy. They knew that in a future conflict, a robust navy would be critical, and Wilson's idea could cripple them. This issue caused some of the most heated debates between the two leaders, threatening to unravel the Allied unity. Despite the political differences, the public celebrations continued. Wilson addressed the City of London at the historic Guildhall, where he spoke of a new moral tide sweeping the world and the need for a peace built on justice, not just the spoils of war. He was a master speaker, and his words resonated deeply with the war-weary populace. Wilson's trip just wasn't about the grand capital. He also made a point of visiting more personal and industrial locations. A deeply personal stop was in Carlisle, the birthplace of his mother. This pilgrimage underscored his desire to connect with the British people on a more intimate level, showcasing his own roots and humble beginnings. Then it was on to Manchester, a powerhouse of British industry. Here, Wilson toured the Manchester Town Hall. Take a look at that fur coat that Wilson is wearing. This is his famous kangaroo fur coat. The press frequently photographed Wilson wearing this overcoat abroad, and it has come to symbolize his European travel. The original coat, along with many other wardrobe items, are still on display in Wilson's cedar closet adjacent to his bedroom at the S Street House in Washington, D.C. According to a curator at the Wilson House Museum, the kangaroo coat was thought to be a gift from the Australian ambassador. It is wombat on the collar, and the rest is kangaroo. In the 1920s, it was a trend for young college undergrads to sport similar heavy full-length fur coats, but their coats were usually raccoon. Who knows, maybe it is Wilson that started this trend. Raccoon was worn because it was a relatively inexpensive option. The young men who wore them, along with other fashionable items like straw boater hats and wingtip spectator oxfords, were sometimes nicknamed collegiates or chics. Beyond fashion and status, the coats were practical. The open-top automobiles common in the 1920s, such as the Ford Model T, lacked effective heaters, making the thick, warm fur coats ideal for winter drives and attending outdoor events like football games. Wilson, ever the showman, waved to the crowd ashore, further cementing his image as a man of the people. This was a strategic move. He understood that to push his agenda for peace, he needed the support of the working classes, who had suffered immensely during the war. The footage even shows the Magnetic sailing past a captured German submarine, a stark reminder of the recent conflict. Media coverage both in Britain and the United States was a novelty of a United States president in Europe, but also because the world was desperate for any news about the future of peace. Every speech, every handshake, every crowd reaction was analyzed, providing a much-needed sense of hope after years of grim reports. So was Wilson's trip a success? For public opinion, absolutely. The British people, battered by war, saw him as a symbol of hope and a champion for a better future. But politically, it was a mixed bag. He laid the groundwork for his League of Nations, but the deep-seated differences with British leaders over issues like freedom of the seas and compensation would persist and ultimately shape the Treaty of Versailles. When Wilson finally departed from England, reboarding the Brighton and then reviewing final guard of honor in France before heading to Paris, he left behind a nation that was both captivated and cautious. He had brought the United States onto the world stage in a way no president had before, setting the stage for the dramatic and often contentious negotiations that would follow at the Paris Peace Conference. Woodrow Wilson's 1918 visit wasn't just a moment in history, it was a turning point. It showed the immense power of American leadership, the complex strategies of international diplomacy, and the enduring human desire for peace. This whirlwind tour must have taken a lot out of him. Just about 9 months later, he suffered his most severe and debilitating stroke on October 2nd, 1919, paralyzing his left side and leaving him incapacitated for the rest of his presidency, a condition largely concealed from the public by his wife Edith and physicians. He died 5 years later. Make sure you check out our video about Wilson's funeral and his death. So what did you think about Wilson's vision for the New World Order? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history and the archives. Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to watch all our videos from famous funerals to diving into the archives to find generations of history. And always please remember to be kind in everything you do, including the comments you make.